TYT's got a new audio network, guys, and you're gonna love it. We got our existing shows, but on top of that, we've got a whole new slate of shows coming out that are in podcast form, including the Jimmy Dore Show. So now nobody does comedy like Jimmy. He is super aggressive and sometimes harsh and often irreverent, but he's gonna give it to you like he sees it. There's no question about that. So you're gonna love this podcast. He's gonna have some of the top comedians and comedy writers on there. So if you wanna check that out along with the entire audio network, go to tyt.com/audio.
Throughout the day, Donald Trump and Republican politicians and right-wing pundits have not really been able to stop talking about the undocumented children down at the border that they were recently forced to mostly stop separating from their parents. And they really haven't had anything nice to say about these kids. It's almost as if they didn't want to stop caging the children, and they're sort of bitter that they were, again, mostly forced to stop doing that. I want to start with the highest profile example of that from this morning on Fox News, where senior advisor to the president, Brian Kilmeade, was talking about these children, and here is what he had to say.
It wasn't President Trump's idea to have everyone leave from Central and South America in June and well up at the border. We just can't let everybody in that wants to be here. And these are not, like it or not, these aren't our kids. Show them compassion. But it's not like he's doing this to the people of Idaho or Texas. These are people from another country, and now people are saying that they're more important than people in our country.
So really fast, that last thing he said there is something that Trump also echoed today. No one has said that they're more important than people here. Everyone has said that they deserve to be treated exactly the same as people here. But he doesn't agree with that. He believes that inherently people from Texas and Idaho, two states he just chose randomly, there's no connection between those two states, are more important. They're not our kids, they're from some other country.
Yeah, so there's a couple parts to this. Now, his beginning was fine. It was a conservative position. I get it. I might not agree with it, every part of it, but look, hey, we can't have everybody in the country, et cetera. And if he says, hey, John, don't treat them exactly the same, we can't give them citizenship, okay, that's the debate. That's a legitimate debate, right? But when you say, hey, don't treat them the same in terms of treating the kids humanely or not humanely based on where they're coming from, that might actually be a real difference between progressives and conservatives. And you guys might have differing opinions on this, but to me, as a progressive, I don't care if the kid's from Botswana or Honduras or America. I just don't care. And maybe that's for a lot of conservatives. They think like, you're nuts. We have to care about our citizens more. And you don't have to finish the sentence with screw everyone else. You could just think, hey, I just want to care about us more. But to me, if you showed me 3 kids and one was American and the other 2 is, like I said, are from Honduras or Botswana, and say, should we treat them differently? I'd say under no circumstances. Those are all kids, they're all human beings. And that goes to the heart of, in some ways, the difference between progressives and conservatives, because progressives see us as a broader category. It's a category of all humanity for a lot of folks. And for conservatives, us is my church, my family, my community, and I'm great to those people. But people outside of us is them, and I'm not as interested in them. I think that was just an interesting example of that, rather than a new idea that Kilmeade had.
Yeah, and also the fact is, this whole situation is almost like criminalizing innocent people. That they're children, they're human beings, as you said. And we also have to understand that some of the reasons that these kids or anyone even comes into this country is because of very difficult situations in their own country. We're not necessarily not to blame in that overall scenario. So when we do sort of us versus them from the standpoint of a conservative viewpoint, even if this is something that's been said for years and years about people coming into this country, it's really also not examining our role in the world and therefore our responsibility in terms of helping people in other parts of the world, particularly ones that are right next door.
I mean, the other thing that's concerning to me that this isn't happening, this isn't being reported by some fringe network. It's Fox News. Half of the country watches this. And I, for the life of me, I don't spend my time in newsrooms. I spend my time in dining rooms and living rooms and talking to people. And I don't know where this ideology comes from. It's not biblical, for sure, for those people who go to church. Jesus was a child refugee, right? And it's not American, because America is a country of immigrants. And
just because we have to dispel people of this notion that only citizens contribute to our economy and way of life. 40% of all the Fortune 500s that Wall Street likes were built by immigrants or the sons of immigrants. 1 in 5 small businesses are created by immigrants. 1 in 10 jobs are created by immigrants. $780 billion a year comes into our economy from immigrant businesses, and our GDP, the Latino community contributes $1.8 trillion to America's GDP. That's bigger than Mexico's economy. Mexicans contribute more to America than they do to Mexico. And so if you care about our economy and way of life, you need to champion these immigrants. And so I don't know in what part of American life this is something that's supposed to be acceptable.
Yeah, well, you mentioned a few groups of how wide the circle is for many conservatives, and they draw it at different points. Now, he is not being very explicit there, but in a lot of the conversation that I've heard up to and including today, you said church, neighborhood, family, race. Race is the most clear one. Brian Kilmeade may not be consciously thinking about it, but many of the people who are watching his show are thinking they are not worth as much if they are not of the same race as me. And I think that they've spent so many decades training their audience that I don't think you have to say it anymore necessarily. Now, I want to give him at least a little bit of credit, because while we have other examples that I want to go to, Brian Kilmeade at least has attempted to walk back what he said. He tweeted later on in the day on Fox and Friends earlier, "Of course, I didn't mean to make it seem like children coming into the US illegally are less important because they live in another country," although that's literally what he said. That's the exact words he said. Maybe he's like most people and he doesn't listen to what Brian Kilmeade says, but he said, "I have compassion for all children, especially for all the kids separated from their parents right now. Nobody wants to see children in these circumstances, and glad they're on the way to being reunited with their parents." So I'm glad that he walked it back, although again, maybe he's just talking off the cuff. But here's the thing, that is the exact message that his network has been broadcasting 24/7 since the situation started. 66% of the country does not support family separations. More a plurality of Republicans do, unfortunately. But if you're part of that 66% of Americans, you have not been represented basically at all on Fox. Maybe Shep, maybe somebody on Outnumbered brought up that this seems inhumane, but certainly not the programs that Donald Trump actually tunes into. And that's why I'm not all that surprised that Donald Trump has also been walking back the statements he made earlier this week when he signed his executive order, saying it's so hard to look at these pictures. It just hurt him so much. And then he wakes up and he tweets something like this: "We must maintain a strong southern border. We cannot allow our country to be overrun by illegal immigrants as the Democrats tell their phony stories of sadness and grief, hoping it will help them in the elections." So 48 hours ago, he couldn't take seeing the pictures, so he had to end the family separation policy that he began. Now it's fake, phony stories of sadness and grief. If you have concern, if you have compassion for these kids, you have been duped by politicians.
Do those politicians include him? He's the one who signed the order. So, and I can't, it's hard to relate to Trump supporters sometimes. It really is. Like during the election, they were worried about economic issues. Some of them were. That I could relate to. They were worried that the system was rigged against them. That I could definitely relate to. And there's a lot of common ground there, and we could reach out on that. But when they see Trump say, "It breaks my heart, and now I'm going to reunite the families," when you know he's the one who did it, I don't know how you get past that hypocrisy. Maybe you didn't know, but that's okay. So then you go to round 2. Then he comes out and goes, "It's phony grief, and I don't care about it." So which one is it? If you're a Trump supporter, which Trump are you supporting? I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know how you answer it. Are you supporting the Trump from that signed the executive order saying don't separate the kids anymore? Are you for the Trump who just tweeted this morning, "It's all phony grief and sadness and I don't care"? I don't know.
We were talking about this before the program started. Obviously, we live in a post-truth world. And I believe that the only way back to the truth is trust. And I think a lot of Trump supporters who I know, because I talk to them a lot, if you talk to them about the real issues and about, well, he did it the wrong way, he should have, if he was going to do this, he should have opened up the facilities, made them bigger so the families could accompany, or have more judges to be able to expedite the asylum claims. Then they're like, yeah, you're probably right, we should have done that. Or I get it, we are concerned about human traffickers and drug traffickers. We have to make sure to modernize our immigration system to even quicken our commerce through it. they're like, yeah, that makes sense. So I feel like sometimes you have to concede that there are some problems. Maybe it's blown out of proportion, but we get it, and we're gonna try to address it the right way.
I think it's almost also just a wider issue even than that, is that if someone supported Trump, they probably assumed that they could trust him, and as you mentioned, but also there's an accountability level. There's the fact that Trump says what's expedient for Trump at that particular moment, and whether it's mean or racist or walk back on mean and racist and then back to mean and racist, whatever it is, it's completely expedient for what he believes his base wants. And I do think, the people that voted for him should make it clearer what values they have beyond the sort of mean-spiritedness of his actions.
So I just want to touch on two things that you guys said. So Ammar brought up, how do you reach out? Look, one easy way is we can disagree on whether they should stay or not, and what are the rules that should apply to whether they stay or not. We shouldn't disagree on how we treat them when they're here. So you can say, hey, listen, I care more about a kid out of Idaho than I do about Botswana. I might disagree with you on that. But okay, I get that that's your opinion. But if they're both here for the moment being, even if you're going to send the kid back from Botswana or Honduras or Nicaragua or wherever, right? Can we not agree that in the 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever months time that they're here, that we should treat them like any other kid? Is that really too much to ask for? And if it is, then I think Nomi is right that perhaps being mean-spirited is not the bug, it's the feature, that you look forward to doing that, in which case I'd ask you to look at yourself in the mirror and see if that's the person you wanted to be. Two easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber, and second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.